This one's really interesting, and because it's a Cayenne, it's the new Cayenne Turbo Hybrid. It's not the Turbo S E-Hybrid. It's the Turbo E-Hybrid, and there it is. I took it to brunch yesterday. So at the risk of being inconsistent, because I love the Panamera Turbo S E-Hybrid, I think I feel differently about this one. What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Smoking Tire Podcast. Today's episode is, as always, brought to you by Off the Record. We love Off the Record over here. They just got out another patron who emailed me to let me know that he got dismissed. That's like, I don't know. I think that's my favorite word in the English language, the word dismissed. It is just such a treat when you hear it from those people at Off the Record after they have gotten your case dismissed. What a great feeling that is. And we love Off the Record because they've been with us now for 3 whole years. Hit up offtherecord.com/TST or go to that Off the Record app and use code TSTPOD. If you get pulled over, if you get a ticket, Off the Record will set you up with a qualified attorney in the jurisdiction where you got pulled over. They are the most clutch people if you drive a lot. Man, it's good to have them in the back pocket. Again, offtherecord.com/TST or code TSTPOD, P-O-D, on the Off the Record app. Download it. It makes it so much easier to submit your ticket when you get one, which you inevitably will. They are here to help. All right, on today's episode, 2 car reviews, turbocharged Germans, them both. We've got the Audi RS3, which I went all the way to Spain to drive, and we've got the new Cayenne Turbo Hybrid, over 700 horsepower, but at a big price tag. Me and Zach drove that for a few days each. Plus, apparently, you can buy a legit Batman tumbler now for the low price of $3 million. Woo! A Rivian engineer says that buttons are bad and voice controls are good, and I accidentally turned my hands blue. On today's episode of the Smoking Tire Podcast, let's go! This one's really interesting, and because it's a Cayenne, it's the new Cayenne Turbo Hybrid. It's not the Turbo S E-Hybrid. It's the Turbo E-Hybrid, and there it is. I took it to brunch yesterday. So at the risk of being inconsistent, because I love the Panamera Turbo S E-Hybrid, I think I feel differently about this one because I'm starting to think a little differently about these very fast hybrids where, like, this thing is really expensive. The Cayenne Turbo Hybrid starts at $146,000. This one is $193,000. That is so much money, and it does not feel from behind the wheel like a $193,000 car. It just doesn't. The whole point of these plug-in hybrids is that for most of your local errand running, you drive on electricity, right? Mm-hmm. That's the real benefit. That's how you get a vehicle like this to return 70 or 80 cumulative miles per gallon. The electric motor, and I don't have the exact number, it doesn't really matter. Let's say it makes 200 horsepower. It's something like that, okay? So most of the time you're driving around, you're comfortable with 200 horsepower. That's what you're using.
Oh, that's a very funny point. I know where you're going, yeah.
So if you're comfortable running 90% of your errands with 200 horsepower, what portion of your life requires 600 horsepower?
Which errand goes, except when I'm doing this, and that's when I need the
That's
gas
when I
turbo.
need to put this into Sport Plus. And so, like, to go back to my dad and his Cayenne hybrid, which is the V6 hybrid, I talked him out of a turbo and into that. And I said, Dad, you never use full throttle. You're driving around this very expensive vehicle and you're just not using it. I think you'll be happier with this. And he is. He still doesn't use full throttle ever in his hybrid. But I'm just, and he plugs it in every day and he uses his 40 miles of electricity, and then when he goes further, the gas engine comes on and he's cruising on the highway and whatever. So the question is, who is the customer that needs the turbo with the plug-in hybrid, and for who does that equation solve for?
Well, I think people that, it's a have your cake and eat it too thing. The electric motor makes 174 horsepower.
Okay.
And the whole thing has 730 horsepower total.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. It's funny. You can have part of your brain that's like, I like big power, I like going fast. And you go, ooh, but I also like the Prius I have.
Yeah.
Could we put those together in one sandwich? And I don't think people would think of the sort of irony of that situation, or how useless one is when you're using the other so much. You just go, oh, yeah, it'd be fun to go fast and have the exciting part. But most of the time, I just really want a chill EV.
Yeah, I think my brain positions it a little differently in the Cayenne than in the Panamera, because the Panamera is a much sportier vehicle than a Cayenne, even though it's a full-size sedan. It's just, you're sitting low, the handling is so much better. It in a lot of ways, it's a full-size car, but it really can feel like a sports car.
Yeah, definitely.
On roads that aren't super, super tight.
Yeah.
And so all these times driving these very fast Panamera hybrids, I've never been like, who's this for? But all of a sudden, we now have this Cayenne where I have a lot of experience with a regular Cayenne hybrid, and I know who's buying a Cayenne Turbo GT, but like, where's this person go? Where do you know? It's got to be just the person who goes, I want everything.
Yes. But
they never really consider what their actual need or use case is.
There's plenty of people we see around here that they buy the SL63 AMG, and they use it to commute, right? And they probably don't go very fast. Now, of course, I'm speculating, but there's a lot of folks, especially in Los Angeles, who buy the highest tier car they can, regardless of if that tier suits their life better.
Yeah.
And I think that's where this lands. Because the steering in the Cayenne does not feel like Panamera steering. The Panamera steering feels like the same good electric steering system assist that we feel in basically every Porsche, right? Like very focused, kind of quick, good feedback even at low speed. The Cayenne, I felt like it felt a little chunky. It felt slow.
The steering felt weird in this car.
Right? I think you could feel the rear steer moving a little bit
You can.
at low
It's
speed.
almost like the Mercedes rear steer, where it's really aggressive in terms of shortening that turning radius. And the steering in this, to me, multiple times, I was like, why does it feel like lane keep assist is still on when I know for certain I have turned it off?
I did not notice that, but I believe you.
It might be tramliney. It might just have real meaty front tires and it's catching. That would be weird to me.
I'd
It
be
shouldn't
shocked
do
if
that.
Yeah.
Or it may have some extra layer of lane keep that can't be disabled for some reason.
That's more likely, I think.
This is a U.S. spec car, not a European car. So I don't know.
But I think these have two different lane systems, right? There's I remember dealing with it in the Macan Electric on the press launches. I had to turn off two different systems for a bunch of things. So it's and they weren't next to each other.
There's lane centering and lane keep assist, and there's separate standalone systems.
And these were not stores next door to each other. I had to go across town in the menu to turn off the other one.
It doesn't. It drives well, but it doesn't drive, to me, that impressively compared to the Panamera. Or even compared to the Macans.
It's on the softer side of driving.
Yeah.
It just
the air suspension is nice. It rides beautifully. There's these speed bumps in my neighborhood that I use to test air suspensions, and this is as good as anything I've driven in terms of air suspension, in terms of taking those are the ones here in Playa Vista, the ones across the street, like if you're going to Whole Foods or whatever. Those, it's like, can you take them at 15, 25, 35, or 45? Like, this car, don't slow down. Those don't exist in this. And that's cool. Didn't exist in the Panamera either with the hydraulic suspension.
Right.
But it's, for this much money.
How has the electric range been for you? It says it'll do 35 miles. Officially,
that I believe. I believe that. The gauge is more optimistic than that. If you fully charge it, the gauge will say 50 miles.
Really?
Yeah. But in reality, it is 35 miles. Yeah. We didn't...
oh, I'm sorry. Well, no, wait. Combined gas and electricity, 50 mpg. Yeah, EV range 35.
Oh, yeah. The gauge is optimistic, but I think 35 is probably right. But the base price of this is 146 grand. The base price of a regular Cayenne hybrid is under 90 grand. I think if you as a customer were really honest about what you wanted out of a car, the experience of driving a regular Cayenne hybrid versus driving a Cayenne Turbo hybrid is so incremental that money would really, really have to not matter to you at all to get the Turbo.
Well, also, the regular hybrid has 463 horsepower.
Yeah.
Does 0 to 60 in 4.6 seconds. Mm-hmm. It is not a slow vehicle.
It's not.
And the turbo hybrid, granted, has a lot more horsepower, but the 0 to 60 is 3 seconds. So, sure, like, it's, 30% faster, but who needs that? 4.5 will feel quick.
Yeah.
And how often is someone who is dailying a Cayenne hybrid going 0 to 60, even, like... I would wager it would be so interesting to see the percentage of, people that buy a new fast EV, they want to show their friends, right? Mm-hmm. Does anyone buy this car and go, and they'll say the take up is great, but are they really going to go 0 to 60 launch mode and then go for it? Probably
once, maybe twice. It just falls into a niche, and it's not the Turbo SE hybrid, so it's not even like the lunatics. It's like it's the one south of there'll be an S at some point, right?
Right.
So this is one south of the total lunatics, but
right. But there's always an apartment below the penthouse, and someone wants to be there.
Sure, it's let's just say it's not for me, and I don't see the value in proposition in this car. I understand if you're buying a 911. You want to buy a Turbo S, like I totally get it. But the fact is, in order to get anything out of this car that's really different from the regular hybrid, you have to be driving like a fucking lunatic. Like you have to be driving like an asshole, pretty much. Unless you're in Nevada, or somewhere where you just have open road and whatever, nobody gives a fuck. Like, all right, cool. You want to go $150 down the freeway in a Cayenne, like, all right. But like, I've been driving this for 4 days. I've never used more than half throttle. And I'm driving around on electricity 85%. I've had to kick this thing into gas just to see what it's like to kick into gas. I could have easily, from the time I got back from wherever the fuck I was until today, Thursday till today, I could have easily driven on electricity alone. Which means that I would have spent $196,000 to drive in a 175 horsepower, 50-something 100-pound SUV.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point.
A legitimately slow vehicle. And I would have been fine with that.
Because then you're riding in the interior. That's what it becomes about, right? It's not about the powertrain with that power level. Also, a GTS starts at $124,000, and what's interesting is the 0 to 60 is the same as that regular Cayenne hybrid. So for us to say and the GTS is a corner focus.
The hot
I drove
V8,
it was really fun. So if you want something that will do well in corners and be kind of quick and exciting, you get GTS for less money. Or if you want hybrid, get regular hybrid for way less money.
The GTS, I will say, because I had the S for the week, was shockingly fuel efficient. And the S and the GTS have the same engine.
I think it got mid-20s.
I think it could on the highway get mid-20s. When I had the S for a week, I got 18.
Yeah.
And I put 1,000 miles on it. So, whereas with any of the hybrids, you're talking about, at a minimum, probably 35 miles a gallon. Guys, it's the holidays. Give someone you love the gift of a pair of Dylan Optics sunglasses, the Smoking Tire's first ever sponsor, still around, still doing it. Give the gift of rad sunglasses. And when I mean rad, I don't just mean cool looking, interesting, different, sexy, customizable. I mean actually for the wearer, it's the actual glass, because people see me in my glasses and they ask to try them on all the time. And if you see me out and about and you want to try my glasses, you can. I'll let you. This is how you get your glasses stolen, Farah. And then, but when they put them on, the first thing they always say is, "Oh wow, it's so good from the inside out." It's not just an aesthetic thing, although they do look cool, but it's about how you can see when you're wearing them. They make it feel like HD life. The glass is really good, and I'm out in the desert driving around for hours and hours and hours, and without my Dylan Optics sunglasses, my eyes would just melt out of my body like Raiders of the Lost Ark. So if you go to thesmokingtire.com and you click on our link from our webpage to get there, we'll send you a free Smoking Tire shirt for every pair you order. Every pair is individually made for you. You can mix and match lens colors and frames, and totally customizable, giving you a totally unique pair of glasses. So we love the people at Dylan Optics. Holidays are coming. Give the gift of amazing sunglasses. It's a good one. Now, back to the program. Minimum. And if you're plugging that thing at home every day, you're talking about 80, 90 miles a gallon.
Right.
Which is spectacular. I mean, that's fucking great. If you could give up almost nothing from your everyday routine, never need to use a public charging station, have infinite freedom to go where you want, when you want, with gasoline as you choose, but also be getting 90 miles a gallon, that's extraordinary. I mean, and that's what my old man is doing with his car. But as time goes on, I'm increasingly stopping to see an overlap between the person who wants that and the person who wants 700 horsepower.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And I think maybe it's just I'm getting older, and maybe I just I'm starting to think about things in terms of like what I actually need versus what I think I need. And I think if more people did that, they'd probably be happier with their choices.
Oh, for sure.
The only thing I would say is I would want my dad's car, regular V6 Cayenne hybrid, but I'd want special wishes to put in the turbo seats. The turbo does get better seats. The Cayenne has sort of the base seat, and the turbo's got the better bolstering, the better shouldering.
How much would that be with special wishes?
I mean, it's probably 10 grand or something. But like that's the only difference for me where I feel better about it.
Right.
The turbo seats are better.
You just got to make sure that like the resale on that spec, like it has the weaker engine, but I got these special seats. And all that stuff,
the resale's out the window.
Yeah.
That's no one's paying for the special wishes hybrid Cayenne.
Yeah, I feel like with the turbo, you basically get an EV Cayenne that sounds like a V8 when you want it to, because it does sound awesome, because it sounds like traditional Porsche V8, but otherwise you're just cruising in a plug-in. Yeah,
and as much as I like their Taycan style gauge cluster that they've done, when I put the steering wheel where I want it, it blocks the entire top half of the gauges. And for me to move it, I have my seat as low as it goes. I sit as far down as I can go. And I'm 6'2", 6'3", depending on my shoes. And so I'm tall, but I'm not like that tall.
So you're 6'2", okay.
Huh?
Depending on your shoes, like, well, everyone's height varies depending on your shoes.
Yeah, but I'm pretty much 6'2". But
Timberlands again?
Huh? Yeah. When I wear my flats, so I'm not that tall. But it's weird that in order to put that wheel where it's up here, and I'm steering like up.
But you have really long torso, because we have the same inseam.
Yeah.
I'm long torso also, but you are 3 inches taller than me. So your angle of like viewing, like you're sitting on the high chair looking down at the steering wheel.
Yeah,
so I think that's
and because of my back,
I
sit pretty upright.
Yeah,
and I don't lean back so far. But like, I've had a problem with a lot of these digital clusters where. And it matters with the digital cluster because it doesn't have like a needle. You know, a needle, like if you could see from the center, all right, well, maybe I can't see the number 60, but I can see 30 and 40, and I can see the needle.
You memorize the angle of it.
I know the angles, whereas when it's just that outer display and you can't see it, so you got to fuck with the gauges.
We should ask David Tuig, is there a height that car companies use as their baseline, so that when they're setting the angle of gauge cluster, steering wheel, etc., like what is the head-on height?
I'm sure there's a formula. There's definitely percentages. So it's like the car has to fit people that are up to the 95th percentile of any sort of measurement.
Right.
And I think in height, I think 6'2" is like the 90%.
Yeah.
It's not like the 97th. It's like the 90th.
Yeah,
or
you're
something.
kind of an outlier.
Yeah, I'm like close to the edge of where like this isn't meant for me anymore.
Right.
And remember, Lamborghini told me like basically to go fuck myself that I didn't fit in the car. But like with Porsche, I feel like they put such a focus on ergonomics. Although they have been for many years comfortable with the steering wheel blocking gauges. I mean, going back to the 80s, you know, the steering wheel just blocked like half the gauges.
For you.
For everybody.
Right,
for everybody. Well, in the 80s, it was because the steering wheel was in the middle and the gauges went just fully behind it to the, and you'd have to like, you know, look around them. And even when they brought back the 99, when they brought back that style gauge cluster for the 992, the steering wheel blocked like half the gauges again.
I think it's kind of an impossible problem based on height, because for you, if you wanted to see the top of the gauges, they'd have to set the binnacle higher, right? Because you have the wheel at your baseline. You'd have to raise it like a sun
No, they'd have to
rising.
lower the gauges.
Or, well, then you got, and so then you're bringing the dash down, then it's
Yeah.
closer to your knee, all those other things. Like, yeah.
One thing that they could do is they could put crucial information like the speed at the bottom instead of the top. A lot of people, their default has the speed at the top center. And
Even when they put the numbers in the middle that change, or do you mean the actual gauge, like sweeping needle, etc.?
well, the default on the Cayenne, the default on the Blackwing is top center. Now, both of those cars have digital clusters, and you can use alternate layouts. So, like, if you scroll through the cluster options in the Cayenne, you can get the more traditional speedometer cluster with a tack, and that moves it down. But it's not the default. So, like, there is a solution there, but I can't use all of the options. I don't know. But it's something that I'm starting. The Mercedes EQs. Remember, all of them, all the EQs, you have to move the steering wheel way up to see the fucking gauges. It's like, it's really tall on the dash, really bizarre. There's other companies that have definitely messed up the placement of their digital clusters. And some don't let you change it. I mean,
Right.
Fortunately, Porsche at least offers the option of an alternate cluster that you can see. Funny enough, when you put the car into manual mode, it doesn't by default bring up a tack. You have to then scroll to the cluster that uses the tack.
Yeah, a lot of them default. They just go with like the map, whatever they
Yeah.
do. Like the most information. There's
Yeah.
like map, speedo, tack over here, music over here.
But it's funny for a Porsche, which is supposed to be the sportiest version of in any genre. When you put the car in manual, it should bring up a tack, don't you think?
Yeah, because you're shifting yourself.
Because
Then you want the information.
this is now information I need to know. You know, like,
That's true. But maybe they did focus groups of like, well, people, if they're driving and they're navigating, they want their nav up and stuff, and then they go, oh, we're going through the mountain road. I'll use manual mode. And then suddenly their map disappears and a tack pops up. They're like, well, now where am I going?
sure, yeah,
I don't know.
yeah. These and other important questions. We did not make a video with this car. I didn't think there was a need. I do like this gentlemanly specification of the blue over cream.
Yeah.
Very, very yacht-like.
It's kind of a nice tan inside.
Yeah. It's a cream. It's a very light tan.
Yeah.
Might be a bitch to keep clean, but it's nice.
Well, I think if you have this car, you have someone clean it for you.
That's probably
Get it
true.
detailed a lot.
Dude, Porsche, though, is driving me nuts with the wind buffeting. You cannot drive this fucking thing with the windows down. The buffeting is so bad above 30 miles an hour. It's brutal.
With all four windows down or just the front?
I don't know
two?
about all four, but the front two is a no-go.
I feel like every car I've driven, I just put the back down an inch because
that probably
it
helps.
solves that problem.
It might, yeah. I think aerodynamics is the inverse of wind buffeting. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't say that right. In order to get good aerodynamics, I think you end up in a place where wind buffeting happens. Because remember, it happens in these very aerodynamic cars. The Lucid, it did it really bad. The 911, the 992, 911s, it does it really bad.
Well, maybe if they want the air to pass as close to the window as possible instead of going out around it. Because to deflect it out around it, you probably need to create more like a steeper angle, which sends the air around you and makes this little bubble for you.
Well, and the cars that I drive that are very boxy, they don't buff it. So like the best example is the Delica. no buffeting there, right? But like even
that car has no aerodynamic design.
But
put
like
into it.
G-Wagon, Broncos, shit like that, like sort of squared off SUVs, those don't do it. It's the aerodynamic sedans and aerodynamic SUVs, and then the super aerodynamic EVs. Not all, but like many have buffeting. It's just like that's because the CFD is all done with the windows closed, and like how that's more important than whether they buff it or not.
Definitely.
I know there's a fix for the 992. Like you can buy this little piece.
Oh, like your Volt.
Like the Volt.
You put a little thing on the mirror and it sends the air differently.
It just bends the air in the right way to stop it. Can you look up for Porsche 992 wind buffeting device? I bet you there's a something for it. Yeah, look at these. Anti-buffeting wind deflectors. Everyone's got their own design. Let's see. AWE Tuning, we know them from Volkswagen Audi. They seem to have a $100 option. And then some other company has one that's $300 that looks basically the same. So, you can buy a solution. And then here's the Renless. Wind buffeting at 120 despite AWE foiler. Uh-huh. Yeah, buffeting sucks, dude.
Oh, well, this person says if you just put your window up 1.5 inches, it's much improved.
I mean, that is a good solution to leave your window an inch up, but I don't like it, Zach.
What?
Because I want to fucking put my arm on that window sometimes.
Do you do that a lot?
Yeah, when I'm cruising, yeah, I do.
Okay.
That's why that drives me insane about the Bentley. The Bentley, the fucking window, even though it's perfectly fucking flat, it's got about a centimeter.
See, and that's also lame because with new cars, for me at least, because the belt lines are so high, like we've had sports cars where if I want to put my arm on the window, it is up at 15 degrees. It's not comfortable.
Huracan.
Yeah, so or I got to raise the seat a bunch. So like this is not a problem for me.
That's my long torso. I'm good.
That's right.
But that's when I get shitty about if the window doesn't go down all the way, and then I can't do it. What was the other car? There was another modern car that. Oh, not even my Ferrari 328. Same thing, inch of glass all the way down. Like there is no better car to drive with the windows down, the top up. The Ferrari 328 is the perfect car for that activity.
You should have both hands on the wheel for the sporty driving.
No wind buffeting either, kids, in that car. Because that shit was not aerodynamic.
Right.
Pretty and aerodynamic, not the same.
It looked aerodynamic, but it wasn't.
Wasn't. No. Probably had a fucking 0.55 fucking coefficient of drag.
Like a G-Wagon.
It was probably terrible. Yeah, I wonder what has a worse drag coefficient, the electric G-Wagon or a Ferrari 328? Now that and more.
Let's see if I can
on this episode of The Smoking Tire. I'm sure we could find it.
Well, ultimate specs. I don't know if this is accurate, but they
can't
say
trust ultimate specs.
Look, man, I'm going quick. The coefficient of drag is 0.36
on a 328.
Yep.
Okay, that's not that bad.
I'm looking for confirmation. All right, that's what we got.
Okay, 0.36 on the Ferrari 328. Okay. Let's assume that means top on.
Right. You want G-Wagon? Which year?
The electric, the new one. Let's give them the best chance at success. I bet you
0.54.
Oh, that's so bad. 0.54.
Wait.
I've
got conflicting. That's it. AI says 0.44. Oh, okay, and that's better than the regular one.
Fuck ChatGPT. It doesn't know shit. We need this on
Autoblog 0.44.
0.44. Okay. See?
Still
fucking don't listen to ChatGPT. It doesn't know shit.
Yeah. The outgoing vehicle was 0.54.
What do you mean? The last one?
I don't know. Edmund says the 2025 electric G-Wagon.
Yeah.
That the outgoing vehicle had a drag of 0.54.
Wow. If they've gone from 0.54 to 0.44 in a year, that's a pretty staggering improvement, considering it still looks very much like a G-Wagon, without giving up that. But 0.54 is fucking hideous. That's so bad. That might be the worst coefficient of drag I've seen on a production car in a very long time. Maybe since like the Hummer.
Oh, the EV Hummer?
No, the H1 Hummer. Like,
I think the EV Hummer is 0.5.
Is it? Damn, that's crazy. But it doesn't have buffeting though.
Yeah, but it's loud inside with the windows up.
Oh.
Yeah, it's 0.50.
Wow.
Yeah.
I can't believe they're still building cars with that much drag.
That's why when I drove that car, I was comparing to like the Lightning and the Rivian, and I mean, it just moves so much more air out of the way. That's why. So the Hummer has this battery pack that I think is like twice the size of the Rivian.
Yeah.
Don't quote me.
It's a 200 kilowatt pack, isn't it?
Yeah. But the range is like the same as an R1T. And that's why, because it's like the drag is literally, I think, double.
Well, that's why when I drove 2 weekends in a row, I drove the G63 to Vegas and back, and then I drove the Bentley Turbo R to Vegas and back.
Yeah.
And even with a third the number of gears and 2 3/4 extra displacement, I got 3 miles a gallon better in the Bentley than the G-Wagon. And it's 34 fucking years old.
Yeah. The Rivian R1T drag is 0.3.
Ah, it's so
the
good.
Lightning is 0.44, and the Hummer is 0.5.
Yeah. That's that's a big fucking difference.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, if the cars with bad drag coefficients tend to not buffet, though, that is true. We've I guess we can talk about it now, right? Or should we wait for the automatic Corolla? We can talk about. I can talk about RS3 because the video will be up by the time this is up.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah, new RS3. I was in Spain and I drove the facelifted RS3. If you liked the RS3 before, you'll probably still like this one. I mean, it's that's it. The Car and Driver's got the 2025 one. Road and Track put their story up. Mike Austin was there as well. Facelift, new front and rear fascias. Still, this car is so great. It's such a nice thing. There's so many things to like about it. It has a ton of front seat space. The front seats go back really far, tons of leg room, tons of shoulder room. For a small car, at least in the front seats, it's very, very comfortable, and I could easily drive one for 7 or 8 hours and be comfy. The seats are great. Although
Audi's good at that. When we had the RS5 or S5 we had, I remember the front seat capacity, volume, everything was the same as any of their larger cars.
Right.
It was just taken out of the back seat.
Yeah,
so
it's
that's
like,
where it gets more constrained.
That's like a thing they make it so very tall drivers can fit in the smaller cars, which is
because
good.
your kids grow, but you're not.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, I mean you do have to trade rear seat space, right? So, but it's got that 5-cylinder which is still going. They sell 80,000 RS3s a year globally. I wouldn't think it was that many considering how few we see here in LA.
Yeah.
But
it does a lot of things well, though.
It does a lot of things well. Mechanically, what is new is basically they've look, the only thing they've fucked up. Here's where they fucked up. Go to a photo of the interior because it now has a square steering wheel, which is a terrible decision that automakers need to stop doing. It's not good.
Yeah, it's flat top and bottom. I mean, the sides are round, but
it's not
weird.
Good. It's weird looking. It's weird feeling. It has haptic buttons on it, and we drove it back to back with the new RSQ8, which has the perfect steering wheel.
Like flat bottom, round everywhere else.
Little flat bottom, round top, perfect thickness, and some real buttons. Like 4 real buttons and the scrolly wheels, clickable scrolly wheels on the steering wheel. That's like the perfect steering wheel, basically. And the RSQ8 had that, and then this had the square wheel, which was disappointing. But the drive modes, the climate control, the important functions are still buttons, which is good. Mechanically, the only thing that's really changed is they've redone the rear diff, which is better at doing torque vectoring and brake vectoring at the same time. So basically, it makes the car turn in better and come out of corners hotter. Mm-hmm. It's got a noticeably higher cornering speed than the. Do I have this written down? Than the outgoing car. And, of course, I wrote it in a different notebook. Why would I write it in this notebook, you idiot?
I thought you wrote everything in one notebook.
When I travel to Europe and I have to pack a little lighter, I've got a small mini notebook that is just for that kind of thing. Basically, I mean, and they've actually they've reprogrammed the suspension as well. So comfort mode is more comfortable, and then the sport modes are a little firmer. This thing is, other than in the stiffest suspension mode, which it never needs to be in. There's like regular sport plus, like skip the stiff one. But it's so like flexible. It has like such a big breadth of talent where you can just cruise along the freeway or cruise through the city. And if you're in a low-key color, it's a pretty low-key car. No one's going to look at you or think you're like mobbing. But we were on this racetrack, and it was very fast on the racetrack, great brakes, really good turn in. You have to really, really huck it really hard to get the back to rotate. And even then, it didn't want to oversteer so much, but it does maintain a very good balance. And they wouldn't give us pricing. Does this go back to this article? Do they have pricing for this? Did Car and Driver get there? I think you have to go to the other tab up top there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Is there pricing at the bottom of this? Price. It says estimate, so I don't think they got prices. It's going to be high 60s, low 70s, which is a lot of money. But you're talking about a car that'll do 0 to 60 in the low 3s. It'll run a quarter mile in the mid 11s. It's like a 180 mile an hour car. These are really, really fast cars. They're the only cars I know of that have a reverse stagger. So the fronts are 265s and the rears are 245s, which is pretty funny.
Did the WRX have that we drove?
I think they have symmetrical. I think the WRX is symmetrical.
It's a clever trick for, the engine's heavier up front than like Golf R, which this is very, very similar to. They are cousins for sure. So yeah, you put a little bit more meat in the front and the back is a little bit more playful.
Yeah.
I mean, we should do a comparison of this versus like an M3 or something. I think that'd be an interesting video because this is such a good do-everything car, and you praise it so highly for good reason. And I wonder if this is the best kind of everything mobile.
I think it's better it's more flexible than an M3, I think, because it can be a little more normal. It's not as aggressive all the time. The only thing the M3 has over this is that you can put it in rear-wheel drive mode and do proper rear drive stuff in it if you want to, and you can't do that in this because it's fundamentally a front wheel drive based system.
True, and when I was editing the video, that went through my brain. I was like, oh, but you can't go drifting this. Like, but how often does one do that with their expensive $70,000 car?
It's like we just talked about with the Cayenne Turbo. How much do you need versus how much do you want?
Yes,
it was. This car is fast enough, the RS3, to do deeply criminal things on the road. You can take it to a track day. They had these same 5 cars running around the racetrack all day. They didn't have to do brake pads or anything in the middle of the day. You've still got that optional ceramic brakes, which are the fronts only, by the way. I would love to use a car like this as a daily driver. I think this would make a great everyday daily road tripper, weekend track days, canyon car. You could do everything with this car.
Yeah.
And the tuning market for them is pretty crazy. Audi is well aware of the tuning market, and they have made them somewhat tuner friendly.
Yeah, these things with tunes and piping on them, the power level is crazy.
Yeah. They sound cool. I mean, 5 cylinders is a very strange number of cylinders in a car. And this one, it even has a weird firing order too. So it really does sound almost like an R8 or a Huracan when you wind it out. But it's hard. I can't think of another car at this price point that does so many things so well. It's not cheap. You go, oh my God, a car that's based on a Golf for $70,000. It's yeah, but it doesn't share a lot with the Golf besides the quote architecture.
Right. It feels distinct.
Yeah, I mean, it has its own engine. It has a reinforced gearbox that's different than the Golf gets. It has completely different suspension geometries. It has ceramic brakes. It has like all this other shit that the Golfs don't get. It does make it feel like a higher quality product. The the steering feel is not. It's not Porsche, but it's very direct. The car has no bad habits at all. Like, you tell it to do a thing, and it pretty much does that thing without complaining. Until that thing is like, do a Chris Harris drift. It can't really do that. But other than that, it could do pretty much whatever you ask of it. And it's the right size for the road. Mm-hmm. Like, we drove it in Spain, like on a canyon road and on a racetrack. And but if you took it to Angeles Crest, or it would be the right size where you could still run a bit of a line, in that road.
I wonder what the exterior dimensions are.
It's not big. I mean, it's slightly bigger than a Golf R, but I think that's just because of the overhangs and stuff. But I think it's still a pretty, the space on the inside and the space on the outside don't really feel like the same car.
So it is, quick Googling, 11 inches shorter than an M3.
Yeah.
Which is a lot.
That's a lot.
It's also, it's only an inch narrower, and somehow it's a little bit lower, by like half an inch. But like 9 inches shorter, that's a lot. That's a lot easier to park everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't think, I mean, maybe you get a little more rear seat space in the M3, but it's a lot more money. And I think the technology is arranged a little better in the Audi as well. The menus are a little simpler. Like, the M3's got a lot of choices you can make.
You have to go to an orientation, I think, to figure that out. And it does start at $11,000 more too. Yeah. It's a lot. I haven't driven one of these in a while, but
we should try to get another one when they come here for a week. I'd like to. I do remember specifically the last gen car, which is largely similar to this. I drove a 911 GTS convertible, 2 per rump for the launch, across the desert, across that road. And I then drove the road portion of the RS3 on the same road as I drove in the 911 GTS. And I remember being very aware of the fact that at allegedly 130, 140 miles an hour, the RS3 feeling much more planted and stable on the road than the 911 did.
Well, it's softer, right?
It was softer.
So it absorbs all the little things, which is important.
And also, with the 911, you don't want to do GTS convertible because the stiffening of the suspension, along with the more flexible architecture, it's like if you've got a convertible, get an S. If you want to, you know what I mean? It wasn't optimized, but still, I remember being like, wow, you could cover fucking ground in this car like real easy. Like Autobahn or just big desert speeds. These are real good at that.
I wonder if, like the 911 is the best do everything car, like above 100. Yeah. Is this the best do everything under 100?
Assuming you're not a purist about the driven wheels, because it is all-wheel drive, and it is full-time all-wheel drive. It's not, but that architecture, it's moving it around. Right. So, I mean, as far as like, what is the best do everything car for under 100? I can't think of another car that would check as many boxes as this for under 100.
When you're driving on the track, do you have to drive it like it's a front-wheel drive car, or can you drive it like it's an all-wheel or rear-wheel drive car?
No, all-wheel drive car. You just can't. You just can't really like initiate oversteer on power.
Yeah.
Like you could load up the brakes and flick it and get it to move, and I did that on track once, but it took a lot of work to do. It's not the car's natural inclination to do that. But that's not what most people are doing with their cars anyway. I mean, I know people who have rear-wheel drive cars that wouldn't drive it. That wouldn't drive like that. So that's like a journalist thing. Like, can you slide it for the photo? Like,
it's very true. I am guilty of that. Going like, oh well, it's more fun if you can do that. And then like literally while editing this, I thought to myself, if I owned one of these or an M3, like what do I do every week?
Yeah.
Like drive to the canyons. Like you're not sliding around.
Yeah.
It's like, if I had $1 billion, sure, I'd have a racetrack and do that, but I don't.
Yeah.
So like I exist as a normal person.
No car can do everything.
Right.
This one covers more boxes than most.
I mean, the M3 with X-Drive is pretty rad because it has all-wheel drive or rear wheel, but it's also really heavy, probably stiffer sprung than this based on your feedback.
It is
you didn't like
it's
how
definitely
the M3
stiffer.
Rides.
Yeah, I didn't
like how this rides.
I do like how this car rides.
That's the
I
difference.
think this is a great everyday car where you actually don't have to give up very much in terms of ride quality for the extra performance.
Yeah.
I'd love to get one of these and do 1,000 miles in it. I think it would be great. I mean, maybe we'll see for one of the next road and track events. Maybe I'll get one of those. I'll break my streak of Bentleys.
It'd be fun. I mean, we don't have the time for this, but it'd be fun to get one of these in the wintertime and like road trip it to an ice racing, snow driving event, swap the tires, do that, and then come back.
We can probably figure that out. I mean, I'm sure if like Vredestein or someone wanted to like ship a set of tires to somewhere and we could go do it, like Audi would probably let us do that.
If you're listening,
Be fun.
Vredestein.
And maybe go skiing while we're there. Because you can do it's got the pass-through in the back, so you can put the skis in.
Can you put the seats down? Because snowboards take up more
rear
space.
seats fold down.
All right, great.
Dude, that car's got a bunch of room in it. It's a good car.
Yeah.
There's a ton of things to like about that car. If I was in the market for that type of car, or if I was like, hey, I've made a little bit of money and I want one car that covers all these bases, RS3 is where I would start for sure. Yeah, it's too bad we don't get the hatch. The Europeans, they get the hatch, and I like the hatch very much.
If you go back to the hatch looks,
the photo gallery
for sure.
Has. If you go back to the main gallery, there was the green one. There's a Sportback. I guess you can't really see it in this photo. It looks the same, but it's exactly what you think. Oh yeah, no, that's the Q8.
Oh, that's the Q8.
That's the RS Q8.
Oh, yeah, you can't see that.
Yeah, and that track, it was Castellotti. We talked about it before. That's the top right photo. The one bummer, those are the European seats, and we don't get them, which sucks.
They look nice.
They're so
they
comfortable.
Fake carbon bucket. The back is like a carbon-looking material.
It's a carbon-looking material.
figured.
It's not real carbon.
That's what I figured.
But these seats did a fantastic job of balancing comfort and grip.
This is a double bummer because when I drove the RS6 Avant,
The special edition.
GT special thing, the car I was able to drive on the track also had the Euro seats, which were actual carbon but with a knob adjustable back. It was like, and comfortable.
Oh, that's what these I don't know if it was carbon, but the back was a knob.
I think
and
it's
it was
like
great.
the same shape.
Yeah.
The RS6 got real carbon.
Sure.
This has fake carbon. But either way, it was comfortable, grippy, supportive, and adjustable.
Yeah.
And then they were like, we're not going to get these in America. Like,
Yeah.
Damn it.
That's
They're
a
such
real,
good seats.
which is weird because these seats do have are set up for the airbags. Like they have them. Of
course they do.
They couldn't explain exactly why we wouldn't get them. And the other thing I'd want to skip is the Alcantara. If you could backdate the steering wheel,
nice.
or if you could put the steering wheel out of the RSQ8 in the RS3, that would make it like perfect.
I bet you can switch the steering wheel.
You probably can. You know who would know? I know who would know.
Byron.
Byron Bowers would know. We got to ask him about that.
Actor, comedian, writer, and also steering wheel expert.
The irony, of course, is fucking 20 years ago. I can't believe I'm saying 20 years ago, I sold my Audi S4 because I hated the steering wheel, not knowing I could get the RS4 steering wheel put on like super easy.
Yeah. Well, you hated the look of the S3 wheel?
Because the S4 wheel came with two different wheels. There was the regular A4 wheel, which was 4 spokes and very ugly. And then there was the Euro S, was optional, which was the 3-spoke one. Mm-hmm. I didn't know that I could get it later.
Yeah, or that you could change it.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah. And then you know who taught me I could change it? Fucking Emil Renzing. He changed it in his RS4.
Probably using our money.
Probably. Yeah, probably. So, yeah, I mean, definitely if this seems appealing to you, it was very appealing to me. The RS3 will be, they're taking orders for him now, and they're great. I was very much a fan of how it drove, and I would really like to spend a week with one here to to see how that goes.
I want to promote an event real quick because this weekend. FCP Euro is doing a all makes kind of car meet down in Torrance. Obviously, this is for local folks, but it's at Robinson Helicopter.
Oh.
So go to that on November 10th. It's from 8 a.m. to noon. I'm going to go down there and look at a bunch of cool stuff.
Oh.
So I just wanted
Do we have to? Is it a registered thing or is it just to show up?
If you want your car in the event, I think go to the webpage because you need to be there early.
Oh.
I'm just going to go as a spectator.
I see.
My car looks like garbage right now. But, yeah, shout out to them.
Okay. Well, you can. I mean, you want to like take my car and show it, or do you?
No, because you know why? Because I don't want to get up at 5.
Oh,
I'm gonna get up at 7:30 and get there at 8. I don't want to get up at 5 to
Maybe I'll
roll
get to go and take a motorcycle and get there whenever I fucking feel like it.
Yeah, that's also a good
got
thing to
that
do.
Hyper matard.
Do you
want to talk about the Tumbler?
I just want to talk about it quickly because it's not a huge story. It's a funny story, I think. So basically, Warner Brothers has licensed a company that is also called Warner Brothers.
No, it's called Wayne Enterprises.
Wayne Enterprises, right. And they're selling Tumbler replicas for $3 million. LS Power,
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah. But what I thought was interesting in the Road and Track article is that they're not sure yet if they'll be street legal because the cars are missing things like brake lights. Now, maybe they'll put that on because otherwise you'd sell 0 of these. They're only making 10. But
I don't think the people buying them care if they're street legal.
But really though, like
No, because they'll just drive them anyway.
Oh, okay.
The people buying these
want to drive it.
No, the people buying these don't have rules in their lives.
Yeah,
I think it's very important to recognize.
Throw a Montana plate on it.
Yeah. They'll fucking get some shady ass registration and drive around. Like, these are not people that are bound by rules. Particularly not if it's if your fantasy is to cosplay a rich guy unbound by rules. I mean,
he does have one rule. He doesn't kill people.
He doesn't shoot people.
He doesn't kill people.
Fine. He doesn't kill people intentionally.
Right.
He's definitely killed people accidentally.
There's a lot of collateral damage that happens. Very good point.
He's definitely cost the taxpayers of Gotham a lot of goddamn money.
Right. When he punches someone and they fly off a building, they're probably not getting back up. But this is like
it's important to not think too deeply about any of this.
It's tube chassis, so it's like basically I'm saying I don't think you go to Florida and go, oh, it's a GMC Suburban, whatever. There's no VIN.
They cut the VIN plate out of.
Maybe they do that, but
maybe that's what Freddie's going to do with the VIN plate out of that Audi.
Oh, throw it on one of these things.
Yeah.
I know, it's wild.
I understand why there is a market for this. Remember that someone built one and drove it on Gumball or something a year ago, 2 years ago.
The one was tan, I think.
Yeah.
Well, and also like what's his name? Jeff Dunham had. I mean, a number of people have the Batmobile replica from the first one.
Yeah.
So of course
those are popular, and then the fucking what's it called? Adam West Batmobile was even more popular. There's lots of replicas.
That was easier to build.
Well, yeah, it was based on a car.
Right.
It was a regular ass car.
This is based on the B-50,
just some
F-35.
old ass fucking land yacht. Yeah, this is all from scratch. I don't know how you would really drive this effectively on the road. How do you steer it?
Well, it probably has a steering wheel.
You think
probably
so?
Square from the RS3.
Does it say in the article how?
It says the interior will be, bespoke to your choice, but modeled after the one in the movie as accurately as possible. So it's like fighter jet. I'm sure you can steer it. Like there's going to be, what would be funny and actually work well?
Tank style steering?
No, Cybertruck.
Oh, steer by wire.
If you did the steer by wire motors, like one on each wheel, and then you only had to turn the steering wheel a little bit, that would actually make a lot of sense for this vehicle.
Yeah, this is the kind of thing where steer by wire is probably functional.
Yeah, they're not. I mean, there's no way to package that in here, but
I bet it would drive like shit. I bet it would drive awful.
I don't know. I mean,
I've talked to Jeff Dunham about driving his Batmobile. Mm-hmm. He said it's the worst.
Yeah, well, fighting crime comes with a cost, Matt Farah.
It's so bad.
Yeah. Look, Batman looks like he's uncomfortable all the time.
No, so that Batmobile, just pull up a photo of the Tim Burton Batmobile from Batman. So this is my favorite Batmobile, for the record. And it probably just has to do with my childhood. That photo, that's actually, I think that might be Jeff's car as the one that was on display at the Peterson. And I think there's, I don't know, There's, I think, 4 or 5 real ones, and then there's some ones that were being used to, like, on a touring program to, like, market.
define real versus...
Like, real meaning ones that fight crime. No, for movie used, screen used, right?
Is Dunham's one of those? Or is
yes.
it it is?
No, his is a
okay.
screen used one.
That. Wow.
But his was modified to be actually drivable. So I don't think his was drivable when it was screen used. And so there was a screen used, like 2 screen used drivable ones, and then these other ones that were used for like close-up shots that had like interiors.
Got it.
And Jeff's is one of those.
Okay.
But so they put a LS7 in Jeff's, and the engine is in the front. It's in front of the driver.
It better be.
Right.
What's the hood for?
Right. Well, yeah. But to get it, there isn't a way to get a drive shaft or a prop shaft straight out of the back of the engine to the rear axle.
Because you sit in the middle?
Because of the way the passenger compartment is. So Jeff told me this. He's like, this is one of the most fragile cars you can imagine because you have a short shaft that comes out of the engine.
Oh, God.
A 90-degree bend that goes down. Another one and then another one that goes out to the gearbox in the back. I don't remember if it comes out of the gearbox and it's a drive shaft or if it comes out of the engine and it's a prop shaft to a transaxle. But there are 2 90-degree bends in it.
Yikes.
And so he said, basically, if you apply more than 30% throttle at any time, it will explode itself under your feet.
Shred those. Oh, my God.
And so I said, Jeff, why did you put such a powerful engine in it? I said, what if you put a little Chevy Cruze 1.8 in there and you had a manageable amount of torque? And he said, it's got a cam in it. It sounds rad.
It's supposed to have a jet engine, so you got to have something that sounds cool. Yeah. I think Jeff would be the one buying the Cayenne Turbo Hybrid.
Probably. Yeah.
It is a very cool looking thing. I guess it's just a generational, like, people like, the childhood of this car, you're going to want this Batmobile.
Yeah.
People want the Tumbler.
Oh, I understand. The Tumbler, it fits into that apocalypse fantasy. This shit is comic book Batman, right? The Tumbler is not comic book Batman. It's like...
Well, it's more tactical.
Yeah.
And it looks more function. It looks more functional because they did more with it in the movie.
Right.
This, like, it drove fast down a street.
Yeah.
And you went, oh, it looks really fast, but what did it actually do?
Yeah. In both this and a Tumbler would survive exiting a 3rd-floor parking garage on the fly about the same.
Probably, yeah.
The end result would be you die.
I think the Tumbler looks like shorter. What is the wheelbase on this thing?
Oh, like a Suburban, long.
No,
it's probably longer. These were based on 90s Caprice chassis, Chevy Caprice chassis stretched was the Tim Burton ones.
Oh, so it's like a limousine.
Yeah, kind of.
Right.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a limousine. It's a 1-door single-seat limousine.
Yeah. 2 seats. It does have 2 seats. Yeah. Yeah, it's got 2 seats.
Oh, right, in the movie because
Vicky Vale gets in.
Is it Kim Basinger?
Yeah,
right. Yeah,
as Vicky Vale.
She goes for a ride.
Yeah.
And yet they still couldn't run the drive shaft down between the two of them. That's ridiculous.
It's not.
If Lamborghini can do it, and you just have this super high center console.
Well, you got to imagine the one that's actually being driven in the movie. The fucking drive shaft must be, here.
Right.
It must be like you need to suspend multiple layers of reality.
I just think you just make some sort of weird bolster system.
Yeah.
It worked for Corvette. Like a high center thing.
The ones
wall.
Yeah, you build a wall. The ones that were driven in the movie have like no interiors. And I think there's a website somewhere that documents every Batmobile.
I like the variety of. There definitely is of Batmobiles like this Tumbler, the one in New Batman, which is like the crazy Charger with like Baja shocks, like very functional vehicle. But smaller and nimbler than this or the Tumbler. It's cool.
Yeah. At a certain point, it's funny that like from '89 through basically, I don't know, when was the last pre-Nolan Batman? Like late '90s, maybe 2000.
Those ones like Val Kilmer, and
yeah,
Schwarzenegger. Yeah,
like those were like very impractical, silly-looking cars. Like the Tim Burton Batman is not an effective way to get around Gotham.
No, it's a tiny city. You need to be able to make sharp turns. The thing is like you're doing. Imagine how many 3-point turns Batman had to do.
Yeah,
Batmobile with George Clooney. I
the
think
George Clooney one was real comic looking. I mean, it
but
looked
it was
like
basically
it was
the
a
Tim
giant
Burton
dick.
One. Have you seen the Tim Burton?
Yes,
Batmobile,
that's also
Matt
a
Farah?
giant dick. But this is even more giant dick.
But with more
there,
lights.
that one, every Batmobile from every Batman.
Yeah. Efficient.
But the one without that's an open, it's an open cockpit.
That
That's
seems
like
safe.
that's not good.
You know, when the bad guys.
Yeah,
are
see,
shooting at you.
the Batman and Robin one from '97 is
Wow.
very, very silly.
I forgot what it looked like because my brain erased that movie.
Yeah.
A lot of lights. Underglow.
Oh, it's got a lot.
97.
It's got a lot. Street Glow is on the way up.
Oh, that's why.
Yeah.
Is that why you had it on your Subaru? Because
I was inspired by '97. Batman Forever. It was extremely cock-like. Looks like
Look
a
at the camber
sex
on this
toys.
thing.
It has a lot of not a negative.
It almost
camber.
looks like a Formula car.
Like the opposite though. Those cars had like positive camber back in the day.
Oh, true. Well, this.
Oh,
has a
I
lot
guess
of
no.
negative
This would be
camber.
more like a '60s Formula One car, right? Like a Jim Clark kind of car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or, I don't know. Or like an F3 car today, but with a way, 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 way bigger.
Bigger schnoz, but
Center.
at least it's got a closed cockpit.
I never saw this movie.
I didn't see Batman
Oh wait,
versus-
Batman versus Superman. I did watch it. It was terrible, and I knew it'd be terrible because I'm like, a human wearing a lot of expensive clothing is not going to beat Superman in
Yeah.
a fight. But I'll entertain this piece of shit.
Who's the good guy in that movie? Superman?
I think so. Because
I don't know.
I don't remember.
I don't know either. I couldn't give less of a fuck about this movie.
I think Wayne was threatened. His ego. He was like, "But I'm the one who saves the city," and Superman's like, "I save the world. Calm down."
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not good.
Cool.
Yeah.
I
This
mean,
thing-
original Batmobile, 1966, I think a pretty practical vehicle, actually. I drove that thing. What a terrible thing to drive.
but it had the steering wheel that a Tesla would later copy.
Yeah, that's where I learned what a bad idea that was.
Yes, it was. You almost crashed into a car.
I've learned just by driving weird shit why some of Tesla's ideas are so bad in practice. I really liked the one from the Batman, this Charger thing.
It's rad. I got
Yeah,
to
you
see
did
it.
a deep dive
I got
on
to see
that
in
for Road
person.
and
I got
Track.
to meet the guy that was like in charge of the design of the whole thing. I can't remember both their names. I'm so sorry. But yeah, go read that article on Road and Track. This is a terrible picture, sci-fi.com, because Batman is standing in front of the car.
Yeah.
That's terrible.
Yeah,
And
it's not good.
here's
Then we
the
have
OG.
our Tim Burton. I still love this one. I mean, this one to me, I like it because it does give the impression that it is a jet-powered
It does.
car.
Yeah.
Like, I believe the visual of this being a jet-powered
too.
car.
And then it looks like it could go 300 miles an hour. It actually
Yeah.
looks a lot like a land speed car,
Yeah,
which is awesome.
yeah. Which is fucking great.
And of course, Tumbler.
Yeah, this website ranks the Tumbler as being the best Batmobile. I do understand why they did the Tumbler the way they did, and I don't disagree with that.
Yeah. And it's got a motorcycle built into it, the Batpod.
Right.
Pretty
Okay.
cool.
So $3.5 million if you can cosplay as Batman. That is better than cosplaying as Batman in a Lamborghini of any kind. If you really want to cosplay as Batman, fucking go. People drive Lamborghinis around L.A. pretending to be Batman, and it's really lame.
They do, but are they wearing Batman costumes but driving
There is
Lambos?
one person in particular that has literal Batman logos on their Lamborghini Aventador, and it says Bat Ventador on it, and it is a woman who drives it, and she does dress up like Batman, and it's fucking weird. It's really, really, really weird.
All right.
And like, okay, cool.
Sure. Let people have their fun.
That's fine, but it's just...
Yeah.
It's odd. It's very odd. Anything? I mean, did we talk about the fact that Donnie's out on bail?
I don't know if we
don't
talked
know
about it on
if
the
we-
show. We talked about it in private.
Donnie's out on bail, and he clearly is a man who hasn't had a phone for 8 months because he is calling and texting and sending me all kinds of shit on Instagram. he has just got his phone back boomer.
Right. He's catching up on a lot of
He's
stuff.
got a lot of things to catch up on, but Yeah, he's out on bail. Someone on fucking Ferrari chat posted that the charges were dropped, but as of today, November 5th, 4th, whatever it is, 4th, that is not true. The charges have not been dropped. Although Donnie, I did talk to him on the phone, and he is, as always, incredibly confident he will be victorious in this, and that the charges will be dropped. And he's like, he really wants to do a victory podcast when he beats the case. And I said, call me when you beat the case, and we'll talk then. But if he does, that would be amazing.
Right.
It would be real crazy if after all of this that Donnie was actually telling the truth.
Well, then he could countersue, right? He's like, "Hey, I was in jail for 8 months."
Yeah, I don't know how that works. I don't know how that works, but my guess is he would prefer to be done with the legal system.
That's not true, because always everyone who is accused and being prosecuted for something, if they won their defense, they would get to counter.
Yeah, I don't think that's how that works. Before we go to the questions from the patrons, did you see this fucking quote from the Rivian executive that's called that said buttons are a bug?
No.
It was on I think it was on The Drive, but it was a Rivian executive basically was asked about buttons. This is it. The buttons in your car are a bug and voice commands are better.
Yo.
Which is horribly out of touch, don't you think?
I think it's really bold because then everyone is going to say, all right, your voice commands better be perfect. And we've driven cars that have very good voice response command, but never perfect.
Yeah.
And it feels slower than just tapping a thing and changing a thing. And, sometimes you have to repeat yourself or talk unnaturally, and I just find that very annoying.
In future movies, like Demolition Man, for instance, talking to devices makes a lot of sense in a movie, right? As opposed to pressing a button. Because you're speaking what is about to happen. Give me directions to down, you know what I mean, whatever. And then it always works perfectly because you're in a movie and it just does it. And now the audience knows what you're doing in the car. It's a useful plot device. And so people who want the future to come will often then go, well, that happened in future movies and we want it to happen in the cars. But I don't know about you, and maybe I'm just a cranky fucking 42-year-old asshole, but I don't like talking to my devices most of the time. I don't like talking to my car.
I just don't have any, I have Siri turned off and all that stuff just because, I don't know. That would be a question for, if you're listening and you're in your 20s, do you use Siri, Alexa, Google, or your phone's voice commands frequently? Or if you're in your 30s? I'm genuinely curious because it may be that we are a generation that doesn't like that, but younger people do. I don't know.
Yeah, I've never found that using a voice command, if I'm in the car having a conversation with another person, I don't want to hold on, hey car, put on this radio, particularly with things like radio stations. I don't want to use voice commands to scroll through my radio presets. I don't want to use that kind of stuff. I could say if you had a totally native GPS screen, which my friend has a Rivian, and I asked him the other day, I was like, how do you like your native GPS? And he's like, I fucking hate it. It's awful. And I was like, oh, tell me more. And he was like, it just is deeply inferior to what my phone can do. And the fact that Rivian doesn't have CarPlay drives me insane.
Yeah.
I mean, he otherwise really likes his Rivian.
I mean, because look, Google has probably a whole team of thousands of people working just on Google Maps, updating that constantly. Rivian does not have a team that large, working on their navigation. The direct quote from Wassim Ben said was, it's a bug, not a feature. Ideally, you would want to interact with your car through voice. The problem today is that most voice assistants are just broken. So to be fair, he did say that. And yes, I agree. But I don't know. If they were perfect, is he implying that they should control everything with voice? Because there's so many things like adjust temperature faster, tap the button, it's just faster. And again, like you said, you don't have to interrupt your conversation with somebody to tell the car to do something. That would be very frustrating.
Yeah, and even if I'm by myself, I don't want to talk to the fucking car.
You want to listen to music. You don't want to pause it and go, 72 degrees now, please.
Granted, there may be a couple of things that would require, you know what I'd like to do? Hey, Porsche, turn off all driving assists. That's the only one where it's like, here's a complicated thing that would take a bunch of taps, and I can speak one command and it'll do all of it. But like change temperature, change radio, things like that, like, nah, I'm not trying to do it.
And even with navigation, there's been times where in LA especially, so there's a thoroughfare that goes across the whole city, and it's Wilshire, and there are sections of Wilshire to the west that have the same exact address as ones that are east of downtown. I got an Uber once, and we almost ended up driving east of downtown before I looked at like how long it was going to take, and I was like, whoa, that's the wrong zip code. And it was the same address, just different zip code. So if you command the car, hey, will you direct me to 246 Wilshire, and then it pops up that menu and says which one do you want to go to, you have to say like no down, number 3, number 2. I just feel like that's so cumbersome.
It's clunky.
Yeah,
unless you could speak as if you're talking to a person, and the car could really, really interpret that and do more complex commands in one, which I've never seen one that can do.
I think we'll get there because with AI, voice recognition, like technology will get to that place. But so maybe that's what he's speaking on. It's just talking about goals of 10 years from now. I have 2 funny Rivian stories on the subject. Someone in my building owns a Rivian, and it's always parked on my floor. And 2 days before Halloween, I get out of I don't know what you got ink all over your hands.
I think what's happened here is that I'm using my stone paper, which does not absorb the ink as well, and I've been rubbing my hands all over it, and it has now come off of my hands.
Did you rob a bank and the die pack went off?
I did. I think this is a downside of using certain types of pens with my special stone paper.
Well, you can't squeeze water from a rock, right?
The internet does not like these stone paper notebooks for this exact reason.
Is there types of ink? It is all over Matt's hands.
It is all over my hands, and I'm supposed to probably use...
you hooked up with Smurfette last night.
Yeah, I'm definitely not supposed to use certain types of pens, including, I think, our tactile turn gel pens on this paper, because that's why it then comes off.
I noticed that a few minutes ago. I went, maybe he's writing checks before.
Nope.
But
it's
I was on more of your hands now.
No, yeah, it's definitely that. And
Dan McGinnis, I blew myself.
As much as I like the luxurious feel of the stone paper, not the first time that has happened, and I may have to go back to traditional paper, which is a bummer. They tried to innovate, it didn't work.
Make it out of trees. I park our car, and I'm here, and I get out, and I hear the Back to the Future, like, soundtrack playing.
Like,
yeah, and I go, oh man, someone must be watching a movie on 1,000 volume, because my building's like, I've never heard anyone's stereo ever.
Yeah.
And I start walking up the ramp, and I go, where's this coming? And I'm like, no, that's in the garage. And I look around, it's coming from the Rivian. I walk up to the Rivian, and the center screen is showing the time machine, like, date time punched in.
Oh.
So this is a thing they added for Halloween.
It was costumes.
Like a feature.
They made costumes. Yeah.
But I'm standing there, and it did it again, and it did it again, and it did it again. And I stood there for 8 minutes watching this happen. It's like someone had shown someone costume mode and not turned their Rivian off, I guess, and just left it plugged in, locked, blaring the Back to the Future. Like, I filmed it and put it up. It was really funny that they could leave it. I don't know if it did it all night, but it was doing it when I came back out at like 11, like an hour later to walk the dog. Yeah, it was pretty funny.
And is it playing sound into the car? It was just loud enough where you could hear it?
Yeah,
okay.
It's like the stereo was cranked. So it was like it was playing the DVD screen. Like, it was
like
only
home
playing
screen.
12 seconds of the song.
Yeah.
And then it would start again, and it would start again and start again. So that same Rivian owner, yesterday, I'm behind him in our car. He's leaving the building, and he has a huge piece of cardboard, like 8 feet long by 4 feet wide.
Like refrigerator box,
flattened. I know what it was, but I'll tell you. And because he has the bed rack system, like the two flat posts you can mount like a kayak or whatever surfboard. For whatever reason, he didn't mount this cardboard flat across those things and then bind them. He put the lower part of the box at the back of the bed, and then it was like
through the middle,
leaning,
like sort of wedged but not,
and aimed kind of up above. Right,
I could probably guess where this is going.
Guy turns left out of the driveway, I turn left 4 seconds later, and cardboard and a screen door are on the ground. Like
he's just gone.
No, he had stopped, but it was the distance he had traveled, Matt, was so minute. I was amazed. This is really a testament to the power and acceleration of an electric vehicle.
835 horsepower.
He got up to 20, and that thing caught all the wind and flew out of the bed and fell on the ground. And I just drove right around him. Like, I can't believe he didn't see that coming. It was so obvious
really funny.
that it was just.
I've only got to go like 3 miles.
I think he was going to Home Depot to like return a screen door.
Oh, probably. Yeah.
But that's far enough. He wouldn't have made it. I mean, he didn't make it past the footprint of the building.
So
incredible.
Funny. Oh, that's funny. My buddy just lemon lawed his Rivian. He got. Yeah, it was weird. They couldn't. It was pulling terminally to the right. They couldn't. He took it into to service like 4 times, and they could
know which
not.
way it's voting.
They could. Yeah, they couldn't fix the problem. Yeah, his fucking his podcast app was stuck on Ben Shapiro, and it was just pulling to the right. I couldn't. It was weird. It kept screaming fucking Proud Boy shit at him. I don't know. So he lemon lawed it. They bought it back.
Wow.
Yeah, he's gonna get another one. He really likes it. He was annoyed that this happened, and they could not fix the problem.
Did they ever change like suspension components or anything?
He's not. My friend isn't like a car guy.
Yeah.
You know, he calls me to deal with stuff like this, and I set him up with the lemon law attorney that I like.
Right.
And he was very effective. And they said it only took 5 days for Rivian to buy the truck back. And he has an allocation for a new tri-motor that's coming soon.
Wow.
But he did not tell me exactly what they did to attempt.
I'm
to
sure they
fix
attempted
it.
everything. I'm just shocked that they couldn't.
They couldn't fix it, and apparently it is not. If you go on the Rivian forums or something, it's something that's happened, but it's apparently not happening to the tri-motor ones. I don't fucking know. Weird. Yeah, really strange.
Very strange.
I'll see if I can ask him about what if anything they changed on his truck.
Yeah, I'd be curious to know. I'm sure they tried alignment. I'm curious if they changed A-arms or maybe like something on the pickup point.
And I don't know if he had a dual motor or a quad motor. I'm not really sure. It was an S, but I don't really know.
Okay.
Let's go to the people. Patreon.com/The Smoking Tire Podcast is where you can ask us questions for the show. Also, you can support your favorite podcast that way through this time of advertising uncertainty. You can get a show without ads. You can get a show early. Get the shows the day they're recorded and not wait till the Tuesday, Thursday. And you get extra shows every month with the Pro Driver level Patreon membership at patreon.com/The Smoking Tire Podcast. Jesus, I do have blue ink all over my fucking hand.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to them. Murph says, was the Fox body project as good as you envisioned? I'm thinking of doing that with an SN95, but now I can buy a clean one and modify it properly. So, I mean, it was great because I did ultimately achieve the goal that I set out to achieve, which was take this shape of car and things I liked about that car and turn it into something that would be good in canyons and whatever. I did do some things that I would probably do differently. I took out most of the interior. I wouldn't do that again. That was stupid. I saved hardly any weight, and it made it loud and rattly. Whereas if I had just left it fucking alone, it would have been fine. So I wouldn't remove interiors. And at the time, the independent rear suspension swap, while it did work and it was cool, it added a lot of cost and complexity. And if you're not driving on very bumpy roads, then using one of the more readily available solutions for the live axle would achieve a very similar goal for a lot less money and time. Maximum Motorsports does make a drop-in IRS now, fully aftermarket. So you can buy a brand new one from them, which you couldn't do back then. I had to get one from a donor. It was like a whole fucking to-do.
But them and also other companies make great additions to the Watts-Link system, Panhard system. I mean, Musto raced his solid axle Mustang at Laguna for years, and it was chasing GT3s and stuff. So you can do a lot with that, like you said, as long as it's not bumpy.
Yeah. I mean, so it was fun. But then when I got to a certain point, it was not hard to get the chassis far beyond the power output of the engine, which just was like, well, am I now going to deal with another engine? Because I couldn't get realistically more power out of the engine I had. It was going to be new engine. And so, how big of a project do you want? I mean, I would say in SN95, you could buy a fucking Cobra now for not much. You can buy certainly later Cobras, Mystic Cobras. Like those cars they're around, and a lot of them have low miles, and 20 grand, 25 grand gets you the fucking nicest one in the world. It was great. But, and then after a while, I just had reached the end of that project. I would say at least once a month I think about getting another one. I'm probably not going to, because I also then go think, when I had that car, I dreamed about cars like I have now. When I had the Mustang, I dreamed about a Porsche. And now I have a Porsche. Am I going to dream about a Mustang? Like, probably not.
Well, but you also tick that box.
Yeah. But yeah, if you can buy the car that you had when you were a kid and modify it in a way that you enjoy it now, I think in general that is a rewarding pursuit. But if you've got the budget, buy the right car and choose your mods. That car is going to be pretty fucking slow by today's standards. So be prepared. Stacy's mom is my mom. Interesting. Are you Stacy? I guess that makes you Stacy. Unless you're Stacy's brother.
Right. Very good point.
Yeah. Or sister. Just Turo'd a Macan GTS. I love the varied ride options with PASM. Aside from a Cadillac ATS 2-liter, what other vehicles with a more efficient engine offer mag ride or air ride for more comfortable commutes in LA? Something used for $30K. Okay, cars with mag ride for $30K, but with efficient engines.
So small engine, but the good suspension.
So ATS 2-liter is a good choice.
CTS, what was it called? The V Sport?
The V Sport? Yeah, that's probably okay. Air ride, you could get a Cayenne diesel. 2012, 2015 Cayenne diesel with air ride.
A lot of the Audis still come with air ride, but we drove a bunch.
Oh, my mom's Q7 that got like 28. There was an Audi Q5 TDI that has adaptive suspension and the 6-cylinder diesel. That thing would be a ripper, and it would probably still get over 30 miles a gallon. Yeah,
even after all the fixie stuff they've done, probably that.
Mag ride is a GM thing first and foremost, especially at the low to medium end. So
I think more medium. I don't think they put it on really they didn't put it on the Volt. They didn't put it on anything really cheap or efficient, did they?
The EXL. What's the fucking Cadillac Volt?
The ELR.
Did that have mag ride? It may have. An ELR is an underrated, awesome car.
It is.
Especially used. And 30 grand probably gets you the best ELR on the planet right now. That mag ride, it rode well. Air is a different. You'd rather have mag ride than air ride.
I don't think it had.
No mag ride.
Mag ride.
Okay. That ATS 2-liter is not a bad choice though. But you don't need mag ride and air ride or air ride in order to have a comfortable car. I mean, there's plenty of comfortable cars that don't have that stuff.
Yeah, definitely. It's just all about spring rate and damping. And it just, if it's not too stiff, basically, and if it's a sophisticated damper and it's set up well, there's plenty of things that ride pretty well that don't have a fancy, complicated suspension. I mean, obviously the benefit of mag ride is the duality. You hit a button, it changes things, but a lot of other cars offer that too now.
Yeah, but usually the good adaptive suspensions are not offered with the small fuel-efficient engines. That's where you run into potential issues. It's usually someone who wants a sporty experience that's looking for that.
Right.
Expatrick moved to Germany, and I need a car for occasional weekend trips to the mountains. A small hatchback that we don't get in the U.S. for under $20K.
Oh, like a Renault Megane.
A Megane, probably, or a Scirocco.
Or like
the Volkswagen Scirocco we didn't get here.
Which gen?
You could get the
Focus,
Golf R wagon. They had a full wagon for a Golf over there.
They
had Focus ST wagons over there. I don't know anything about the modern French
They had the
cars.
RS before we got the RS, the generation before that.
Oh yeah, the Euro only
like
Focus
RZ3.
Yeah,
but yeah, that was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what the market, I mean, $20K, I have no idea what the market is for those cars, but there's a whole bunch of hatchbacks that we didn't get here. There are more Audi hatchbacks. I mean, there's like the A2 and the A1. There's Mercedes A-Class as well. But I don't know what any of that stuff costs. We've never ever looked.
Yeah, true.
No, I mean, I don't know what the price is for any of that shit.
But there's a lot of good stuff there.
But yeah, I mean, you're in the land of hatchbacks, so have at it. We're going to need more Advil. Good username. What, if anything, am I going to miss going from a BMW F80 to a CTS Blackwing, CT5V Blackwing 6-speed? And would you pony up for the Precision Pack if it's going to see monthly HPDE? I don't. It's pre-embargo. I think we're going to hold that till November 19th because that's when I got to talk about drive impressions to answer that, and that's embargoed.
Is there hardware on it that makes it more durable for track use that's not a driving impression? Like, is it like, oh, it comes with trans and diff coolers, and the other one didn't?
No, it's not really like that.
Okay.
I think we're gonna have to put that one on the side.
All right.
Sloppy Toppy 5000. Where and how did Chrysler go so wrong to end up in the place that they are now? And if you were given the keys to the company tomorrow, would you figure out a way to save Chrysler or shut them down? Well, are you talking about Chrysler the brand, or are we talking about Stellantis?
I think they're talking about Chrysler the brand, I would guess, because they have one car on sale now. Well,
they just never invested properly in product, did they? You have to put out cars.
Well, they tried. They had success with like the 300, but then when they tried the 200. It just didn't work. I mean, it's not that the car didn't work, but like the sales were pretty dismal on that thing.
Yeah.
And the competition in that space is super fierce with Civic, Corolla, and I mean, you had the Hyundai like getting better and better at things at that time. The competition in the small economy car space is always really difficult, and I think that car. And then they've had reliability issues for a long time.
Yeah.
And you put those things together, and like your economical sales or your economy car sales are going to suffer a lot.
Well, they never put out vehicles that other companies were putting out and making huge margins on. I mean, they don't have a small or medium-sized crossover. I mean, their other divisions did,
right?
Dodge and Jeep, but there was never. I mean, there was a lot of possible overlapping and platform sharing and this and that, but none of it ever seemed to make its way to Chrysler.
That's a great point. I think it's a product of the conglomerate being too big.
Yeah,
where Toyota can make 48 different models of car because they're just selling Toyotas, but they don't have 5 other subsidiaries that like are also going to make a crossover. And like, well, how do we make the Chrysler crossover different from the Alfa crossover, different from the Jeep crossover, different from the da-da-da? Like, there's so many different companies that send money to Stellantis.
Right.
And I think it makes it harder for them to try to sell a car from every single one of those brands.
Yeah.
You know?
And I mean, they've not done, Volkswagen Group has done platform sharing pretty expertly, despite what people like us say sometimes. Like the fact that the Tiguan, the Q5, then the Macan, those are really distinct products with really distinct consumers.
Yes. But very distinct price points.
And very distinct price points.
That's really key.
And they're platform shared, but they're differentiated in a lot of other ways.
Yes.
Same with the Cayenne, the Q7, and all that, the Urus, the Bentayga, blah, 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 blah. They've managed to take that platform and done very distinct, different, things. Chrysler never really succeeded doing that. And I also think that well, this isn't the Chrysler brand specifically, but the Hellcat everything strategy is great for the short term, but not so great for the long term. Because now they've phased out that engine, what's left?
Right, yeah, that's very true. I mean, that was really successful for that era. It was a long era. Mm-hmm. And so this is Stellantis brands. I wanted to just bring the whole thing up and see, like...
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of brands that have great history but are not particularly compelling in today's world.
And I think, the Volkswagen Group, you have Porsche and Audi are competitors. That's true. But I think their marketing is different enough. And there's enough people that want to buy their car. Like you can have a Q5 and a Macan. Mm-hmm. And there's definitely crossover in that market, but there's enough people to support each of those products being individual and enough of them being sold that they can keep investing in the development of those products, which is very impressive. But for Chrysler to put out a crossover, they would be then competing with they'd be competing with Dodge pricing and Fiat pricing and Jeep pricing, and Alfa would be maybe slightly more expensive, but very close.
Yeah.
So that they're competing with four other companies that are going to be selling at the same level.
Yeah, I think the Stellantis brands are so distinctly different. Alfa and Dodge, they've tried to do the small crossover, the Tonale and the Hornet, mm-hmm. right?
Right.
But I don't know what makes one of those an Alfa and what makes the other one a Dodge. I could tell you what makes a Macan not a Q5. But I couldn't tell you what makes this one.
I haven't driven the Hornet, but I'm sure the pricing is a start to it. I'm sure the materials inside are nice. I mean, we drove the Tonale. We drove the fast one. That was a pretty impressive, good crossover. I mean, it was expensive.
Who did? You did?
I mean, we did.
We did?
Yeah.
We drove a Tonale when?
Didn't we?
No.
Maserati?
That's an Alfa. It's a Tonale.
Oh, wait,
the Maserati is the.
We drove the.
Oh boy,
we did not drive a Tonale, right?
No, what's the fucking God, the Grecale,
yeah, the ice cream,
which actually I liked.
Yeah, sorry, I got those two.
That's not on Tonale architecture though, isn't it? Isn't that on Stelvio architecture? I think that is the same as the Stelvio. I hope I'm not wrong. I could be wrong. This shows you how interested I am in this topic. Alternative theory. Chrysler Stellantis knows that Chrysler was losing brand equity and brand image and is just slowly letting it die because the other brands are building more focused versions of those cars. I mean, who's without a 300, and even the 300 was great in 05 and 06.
Yeah, the Charger took over what the 300 started, though.
Pretty much. And
that's fine. And then there's the wagon or the minivan.
Yeah.
Literally, if you go to, I was there a moment ago, Chrysler's website, it is 300 and Pacifica.
Yeah.
And that's it. And the Pacifica is very good at its job. But if that one product can be absorbed into any of these other companies,
I wouldn't be surprised to see that go into next year as a Dodge Caravan.
Sure. And that's fine. And the marketing's there. This is the origin story. Returns to that. Fine.
They killed Plymouth the same way, and nobody noticed. I mean, Plymouth went down to ultimately there was, they had 4 or 5 cars that were all the same as Chryslers or Dodges, just with different badging. And then it was 3, and then it was 2, and then it was the Voyager, and then the Voyager was gone. And guess what? Nobody fucking cared.
Yeah.
So I see that happening here.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Go back.
I'm not sentimental about Chrysler. I don't really. I don't care. Billy Jimmy Zox, given the keys to an E36 M3, what mods are you doing to make it as nice inside as possible? Man, imagine like trying to unshitbox an E36. Like, there's so many things you just can't do to make it nice. Like, that whole center console stinks. Like, you can't make that nice.
You can't really change that. You know, you could do aftermarket door cards that won't fall apart.
Yeah.
But that'll be expensive. And you could do... Well, I mean, the seats in that car are actually pretty comfortable.
The seats themselves are fine.
Yeah,
it's not.
Vader seats are they're well-shaped.
Their seats are okay.
Yeah.
The problem with those types of cars is like... with that car, the E36 BMWs, they're just built so poorly on the interior that like it's not just like, well, it's cloth and you'd replace it with leather. It's like you have to actually make this like fit together better. Like that's a problem that's really, really hard to solve.
Yeah.
And I don't know how you would solve it in the aftermarket. More importantly, why you'd want to try.
Yeah.
Like, what's the best case scenario there is you've spent $60,000 on an interior and it's an E36 M3? Like, that's crazy.
I think to make it nice, what do people notice when they get in a car? If you changed out the seats and put in like expensive Recaro buckets with custom stitching or something, people would see that and go, ooh, and maybe like your shifter boot is different. Couple of quick tangible things that would make it look nice, and then you just ignore the center console. Like, you're not going to change these buttons.
Yeah.
You're not going to change the action on them. You're not going to redesign them. Just ignore that stuff. Like, I think that's as far as you'd want to go, unless you're willing to spend
a ton of money.
$60,000 in like Alcantara A-pillars and different headliner, and you could go crazy. But
you'd have to spend a fortune. Let's see. Hoopty says just moved from Georgia to New York City for reasons. It's really hard and expensive to be a car guy here. I'm buying a house in Brooklyn with a driveway and a garage, but just enjoying a car in the city is tough. I currently have an E30 M3 with an S54. Okay, and I'm looking to get into a GT3. Can you scroll down, please? Other than joining Manhattan Classic Car Club, how do you suggest I simply enjoy being a car guy here? Well, you have to leave the city. I don't mean move, but like you have to go drive your car out of the city. There are Cars and Coffees out on Long Island. There are Cars and Coffees in Westchester. There's Cars and Coffees in Connecticut. There are racetracks. You've got Lime Rock. You've got Pocono. You've got Monticello. You've got New Jersey Motorsports Park. You've got beautiful roads. Westchester and Southern Connecticut and the Hudson Valley have amazing roads. You got to go drive them. I mean, but you're not going to find car culture in New York City outside of Classic Car Club. I mean, you're just not.
Makes sense.
It's not a car culture town. It's for a lot of other things, but it's not for that. So it's just about finding places to drive your cars and people to drive them with. And I suggest Classic Car Club to find some like-minded individuals. And I suggest pulling up your Google Maps and looking at the area in northern Westchester County and Connecticut, the New Canaan area, north of Greenwich into New Canaan. The roads are just incredible up there. Bear Mountain State Park, great driving roads. Seven Lakes Drive in New Jersey, all of that. There's so many beautiful roads to drive in that part of the world. But you're not going to find that shit in New York City. You got to go out. Randy wants us to review the Escalade IQ. That's the electric Escalade, right? Based on the Hummer. Isn't that it? I think it is. I will ask for one. Probably not a video. Probably not video worthy. You want to talk about a video nobody would watch? That would be
electric only, 680 horsepower.
Old Rusty Bimmer, do you have a dash cam on any of your classic cars? No, I do not. I don't have any advice. I always drive something different, so installing stuff like that in any one car, it doesn't really. People were amazed that I don't have like advice on how to best like hardwire a Valentine 1, but like I move it from car to car. Hardwiring stuff doesn't make any sense for me. I know people who are all about dash cams. In general, the older the car, the better. Like, dash cams have caused problems in some of my customers' newer vehicles in terms of like
Weird.
draining batteries and stuff like that. My one customer had an Urus and installed the dash cam, a professional installation with a battery backup, and it still managed to drain the car's battery. And the Lamborghini replaced the battery once under warranty, but warned us in writing that they would not do it again. So, and same customer had a similar problem with dash cams in his RS6. So with an old car, probably not much of a problem. But in a new car with all kinds of connected this, and you never really know if it's fully on or fully off, I would be careful.
I think about Larry Chen gave me one, and I think about installing it only so I can capture the dumb things in LA, especially people driving without their headlights on at nighttime. But that's the only motivation I have.
I get why people would want it, for sure. It's a great thing to have if you get into an accident.
It is a great just in case, and I'm sure if something goes wrong, that I'll go, oh, I wish I'd installed that.
Yeah,
it's helped people with insurance fraud. There's plenty of videos, people diving in front of you, hitting the brakes, pretending that they jump on your hood and that you hit them and shit. And you're like, if you have it on film, great, you just saved yourself a lawsuit.
I've had 4 or 5 different times people have knocked on our door here and asked us, do you have video of that intersection? Because they were just T-boned.
Yeah.
And we always do. And I got some great videos of people running that light, fucking never ever cross Centinela without looking both ways, even if your light is green. Trust me. On foot or in a car, because when every video I have where someone blows that light on Centinela, they're doing it at like 60.
Yeah, because they're trying to make the light, and
or they don't
lanes,
they can't see it until they come around the corner because they're already going so fast.
Right.
They don't even look up. It's crazy. The light'll have been red for 10 seconds, and this car's blowing through it at 60.
It's a big sweeper. People drive it like it's Spa. It's like a 40-mile-an-hour speed limit, but people go way faster.
Well, it's 3 lanes. It's might even be 4. It's
2 each way.
It's 2 each way. No, it's 3 each way here.
3 each way.
And
it's 6.
Yeah, it looks like you could drive it like a highway, but you're not supposed to. I actually think it's incredibly poor road design, honestly. Let's see. Derek says, you talk about iconic movie cars on a regular basis, but the current batch of cars haven't made their silver screen debut. Wait.
Today's?
Oh, like what current car would we cast in? Well, it depends on the person.
Well, I would also say that brand new movies are in cars quickly if the car company has sponsored the movie.
Sure.
Like, what did I watch? Gray Man. I watched that. I think it came out last year. Audi was definitely a sponsor because their car survived so many calamities, and the 4 rings on the front were always untouched. And what was it? Red Notice a couple years ago. Alpha, bright green, drifting, doing all these things, clearly sponsored. So I think that's why when new cars end up in movies, that's why.
Yeah. And I think there's very little full editorial where the director insists that this is what this guy would drive, without sort of a partnership.
Right. No, I think it's sporty sedan, and they go and find car companies and see who wants to throw money to give them that. Otherwise, the car will just be debadged or something. Yeah.
But Derek wants us to write a movie with a character, cast that character, and put them in a car. That's honestly a lot.
Well, that's a good question to save.
It's a good question to save. Maybe it's a bigger
thing.
It's a bigger topic, but I don't know if I could come up with that one on the fly. That's a lot. Oops. There's 6 layers to that.
Yeah.
I don't even know what kind of movie I want to see.
Who are they going to be? What's their motivation?
Yeah.
I think in the beginning, John Wick 1, he drove a whatever pickup truck, but then he jumped ahead to Mustangs. Right?
I will say, speaking of movies, the hero we don't deserve, but we have. I just watched Billy Corbin's new movie. I fucking love Billy Corbin. He did Cocaine Cowboys. He did God Forbid, the thing about the fucking guy with the pool, Jerry Falwell Jr. with the pool boy.
Oh yeah,
the guy that's Billy Corbin.
Yeah.
Just it's like
That was quite a story.
fucking insane. Everything Billy Corben does is crazy. And his new one is called From Russia with Lev. Did you see this one? It's about that guy Lev Parnas, who is the guy. He came out of nowhere and made it into the news like huge because he was the guy that ended up setting up the call between Trump and Zelensky, where he tried to blackmail Zelensky to get his war assistance by saying, first I'm going to need you to investigate the Bidens. Do you remember that was Trump's first impeachment? This may be like, but anyway, this sort of like this guy Lev Parnas is sort of this like bumbling Ukrainian mob adjacent guy, and he is always running these sort of low-level scams and figures out that the best way to get people to invest in his scams is to go to big Republican fundraisers and be sitting down with all these big business people, and he can pitch his scams to. Well, because Trump is also kind of this like shisty scammer also, he meets Trump and Giuliani at one of these fucking things, and they become like fast friends. He starts posting pictures on his social media of him with Trump and him with Giuliani, and all his like Ukrainian mob people are like, oh, Lev's got the hookup with Trump, and they start trying to get to Trump and Giuliani through this guy. So out of fucking nowhere, this like bumbling, scammy guy just becomes the middleman, and his buddy Igor is like records all this shit. It's like recording Trump, recording Giuliani. These conversations are fucking insane because Trump and Giuliani like don't know anything about Ukraine or Russia, and they didn't know they get a lot of like oil from there and shit like that. And they fucking Lev becomes this like
he just falls into this success of a middleman.
Yeah, of being this like sort of like spy-ish like, you know, middleman who's doing all these like back channel-y fucking dark money shit with Trump and Giuliani. And the story of it is fucking insane. And I don't want to give the ending away because there is sort of an ending in the end that I didn't know about. But the movie is called From Russia with Lev, and it's streaming on Apple right now. I think you can also get it on NBC or Peacock or something.
It was let's see. I think MSNBC. Well,
Yeah.
it's probably on NBC.
Yeah.
It was produced by Rachel Maddow.
Yeah, but it was just fucking, you know, Billy Corben's always nuts, and he always finds these crazy people to put in these films that are like total pieces of shit, but like somehow charming. You know what I mean? Like even like everyone in every one of his movies is like a Florida man. You know,
Yeah.
like that's what Billy does. And man, was this fucking thing. It's crazy. The recordings they have are insane of Trump and Giuliani just like not knowing anything about anything.
Right.
It's fucking crazy.
That tracks.
Chris says, considering an R34 GT-R, and I would go over to Japan and shop with an agent's help. I've never driven one. I've driven several right-hand drive cars, but I have no experience driving any Skyline. What are they like to drive? Are they worth 150 to 200K? I've owned several GT cars for comparison. So I think as an investment car, if you buy a great one for strong money and you plan on holding it for a while, then yes, they're worth it. As a raw driving experience, is it a $200,000 experience? Maybe, maybe not. Particularly because you could get an R32 or 33 for probably a third of that money and have 90% of the same driving experience. Mm-hmm. Like the 34 is the best, but it's only incrementally better than the 32 and 33, which are mechanically very, very similar. You get the 32 is a 5-speed, the 33 is a 6-speed, but I think the 33 is a 6-speed. 34 is definitely 6-speed. It has better high cast, the 4-wheel steering system. And I think they look better.
The active yaw control in the R34 is like 10 times faster than the other one.
It's
but
better.
Like, things you may or may not notice depending on how hard you drive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if it's about getting the best bang for your buck, just get a nice 32 because that'll be $75 grand, and you're most of the way there to that same experience. If you want investment grade, the 34s are rarer. I mean, they're fantastic to drive. They're so nice. You can't believe how smooth the power band is. It's so slick. They're really, really, really nice things to drive. And I mean, even my R32 that I had for like 2 years, was it even 2 years, 18 months? That car was a 90, and it drove like a 2015 BMW 335i. It's crazy.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah. That engine is so great. It's so smooth. The inputs are really nice.
It feels very solid. When
Yeah.
I drove the R34, I went, oh, this feels like a turbocharged all-wheel drive E46.
Yeah.
In like size, ergonomics, construction, quality, all those things. Yeah.
Yeah.
But the driving experience thing, like we say it a lot, but it's such a subjective thing. And you go, well, it's like what's in your brain of what could you get for that money? What will that feel like? If you get a new car, it's going to feel faster, but wider, but stickier, but also maybe not as exciting. I mean, and so much of this is like, were you into the R34 as a youth? Because that's going to have a lot of like cachet for you. So.
Yeah. It was so surprised. The first time I drove a 34 was in Japan, actually, at that Fun 2 drive place, the rental place. And I'd been driving an R35 Nismo for 4 days around Tokyo. And I dropped it off and got this 34. And immediately I went, oh, this is the thing. This is what I was hoping that other thing would be, and it isn't. And you drive a 34 and you go, especially one that's like been taken care of and is, set up nicely. And you go, now I understand why when we used to play Gran Turismo, it was like no skylines, because it was just like that much better than everything else. And you go, oh yeah, the real car, that actually wasn't too much of a stretch. The real car really is like that. I think you could daily an R34 in modern traffic, and it would be a really nice thing to drive.
Yeah, so the presence is just so cool. Oof.
Tim A, opinions on the HRE 522M Turbo Twist style wheels. I love these wheels. I think these wheels look great on every Porsche I've seen them on. I've seen them on Taycans. I've seen them on 911s. I've seen them on a Carrera GT. If you scroll down, HRE usually puts photos of them on vehicles down at the bottom. So there's a gallery of them on a variety. There's one on a Range Rover. Let's see the Range Rover. Not bad. Actually looks pretty good.
Yeah,
I mean,
pretty cool wheels.
Not my favorite, but there's a Carrera GT. Perfect. Ooh. No notes. Absolutely fucking perfect on that. Was that a GT3? I think it's a GT3. Oh, it's a turbo. Pretty good there. Where's the fucking Taycan? There's that looks great. That's a Turbo S
gold
coupe.
Wheels.
Green gold. That looks great. The Taycan Cross Turismo had them.
Ooh,
R8 looks good.
It's just a good looking wheel.
Yeah. Just Google real quick Porsche Taycan with HRE 522M, because the Taycan Cross Turismo that was at the HRE open house with those was fire. It looked great. HRE 522, by the way.
Oops.
Yeah, there. Look, top right, the white one.
The white one.
Look at that. Go to the one where you see the whole car.
It should be in here. Oh, here.
Yeah. See, that looks excellent, right?
Yeah, that looks really good.
I'm on board with that 100%.
It's just the wheel's got a nice organic shape, so it works with cars that have some nice curve. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's the whole thing. Yeah, this looks really cool.
That looks really good. The Taycan Sport Turismo on those all day. If I didn't already have... These came out after I got my HREs. If I had seen those first, I'd probably get them. But I don't think they're as light as mine. These aren't from the... Mine are in the lightweight line, and these are in the regular line. So these are a little more like... They're forged, they're good, but they're like, weight isn't the focus.
How long did you spend hemming, hawing wheel design and then color when you were choosing your HREs?
Not long.
Really?
Because I had seen the design on Ryan Schiller's car.
Oh,
he had them.
yeah.
So I knew what it was going to look like. My wheels look a lot like the stock wheels. They're not immediately identifiable as like, oh, those aren't stock. And then when they told me, you know, we have fittings for your car, and oh, by the way, it's 3 pounds a corner lighter than stock. I was like, okay, great, sold. Because, you know, if your wheels are lighter and stronger, why not?
Well, I'm going to get Apex wheels for my car, and they're like 6 to 7 pounds lighter per corner, which is awesome.
Yeah.
But I've been like one wheel I like the shape of, but they no longer offer it in bronze, which I think will look sick on the green. And the other one, they offer the color, but it's not the same. So I'm just like, staring, going back and forth.
And you don't want to change the color of what they offer?
I asked them, they were okay with that, but they said you have to be careful doing that because powder coating a wheel again after it's already been treated can compromise it a little bit. I'd rather, if people yell, like I'll read the quote from the Apex rep. I don't want to get them in trouble or whatever. But they were like, it's not a great idea. And sometimes you can't.
What color can you get on the wheel you want?
Paint coating too. What?
On the wheel that you want, the wheel design that you want, what color can you get?
Like clear silver or anthracite, which is dark gray, which I don't want. The silver looks cool.
The silver would probably look really good.
Because there's little bits of gold flake in the green.
Yeah,
having gold or bronze would look awesome,
would be
right?
great.
So
yeah.
I'm looking at them. But I was just curious, if you had to go back and forth.
Well, you remember the color thing, right?
Yeah, the first one.
The first one I rejected.
It was orangish.
Yeah, part of that was my being colorblind. Part of that was looking at it on a screen.
Yeah.
And on a screen, to me, it looked like it was going to be the color I wanted, and then in person it became orange, and I didn't like it, and I had them change it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I wanted frozen polished copper, but what I really wanted was frozen polished champagne.
Yeah.
And that's what I ended up with. So, that's a tough one. I say pork roll. On the subject of Batman tumblers, what is one vehicle from pop culture you would include in your garage? For me, it would be the Tron light cycle. Back to the Future DeLorean, I think, would probably be what I'd like to have.
I want the pre-runner Charger from Fast 7.
Okay. How many do we have? Just those two?
Those two.
Okay, 2 left. Chris Bacon, if you could drive the Isle of Man TT course in anger in any street legal car, what would you choose?
Rally cars are technically street legal.
Mm-hmm.
I would go with I think it's called the Ford Focus R5.
Oh, yeah, okay.
It's not quite WRC level,
yeah,
but it's still very fast and all-wheel drive and all that stuff. I think something like that would be real exciting.
Yeah.
Because I also want a cage because the odds of me crashing on Isle of Man TT are not zero. Like as much as I'm tempted to go, ooh, Daytona coupe.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
No,
I want something. A lot of stone walls there.
Yeah, I think I'd want to do a T50, Gordon Murray T50. I wouldn't need to set a lap record, but I'd want to have a good time to echo some V12 off of the.
Because it's got there's a lot of long straights on that. Yeah, T50 is a good choice.
Right. Last one, wide body salami. Join the Patreon just to ask this question. Okay, has a truck, but is looking for a daily driver that is not that truck. Should I buy a 992 GT3 manual or a 992 GTS manual? Easy, GTS. You don't want a GT3 for a daily driver. I mean, unless you live
you don't.
On a glass globe with perfect roads, I would go with the GTS.
Yeah, I completely agree.
As a road
Targa GTS, that's a nice road car. Ooh.
As a road car, the GTS is a better car than the GT3 for driving on the road. It's just as fast. It rides better. The torque of the turbos make it feel faster off the line and around town. It's going to be more fuel efficient, more comfortable. The GTS is optimized for road driving. Mm-hmm. That is the right choice. GT3s are great if you're going to go on racetracks.
Yeah.
If not, they're rough.
And everyone in the parking lot will ask why you can get a GT3 because they'll have GT3s. And if you take them for a ride in your GTS, they will be jealous of how comfortable it is.
Mm-hmm. That's what's up. Thank you, patrons. Good round of questions today. We appreciate it. Go watch the Audi RS3 video. It's got a street drive. It's got a track drive. The track is really cool. It's a neat track, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really nice.
And that video will be up. And yeah, thank you to everybody for watching and listening today. We appreciate it. Please join the Patreon. Even a couple of dollars a month very, very much helps. And you get the show without ads. You get extra content. You get to ask questions. You get to do a whole bunch of other stuff. Get these tactile turn pens. These are coming out soon for patrons only. Don't recommend using them with the stone paper. I recommend using them with the regular paper. Otherwise, your hands may turn blue like mine. I may have to bail on the stone notebook. It's luxurious feeling, but I don't think having blue hands is a very luxurious experience.
No, it's not.
Yeah. We'll see you guys on Thursday or whenever the fuck we record again. Bye.